Imagine being stuck 19 hours in an airport with no food, no hotel, and no refund. That's the reality Jasmine Crockett threw in Trump's face. Her words turned Congress into a battlefield, exposing how $775 owed to passengers vanished into corporate pockets. Trump's silence stretched for 47 unbearable seconds on live TV. What would you have said if you were in his chair? Stay with us. This is a story worth every second of your time. The gavel cracks once and the hearing explodes into focus. The cameras zoom not on the days, but on the sea of faces behind it, angry passengers, mothers clutching photos of children who spent nights on airport floors, veterans in uniform holding up cancelled boarding passes like battlefield scars. The banners above the chamber read Passenger Fairness Hearing, but tonight it looks less like a hearing and more like a courtroom for a nation betrayed. The audience leans forward, America breathes in, and Jasmine Crockett does not wait a single heartbeat before striking. Her voice slices through the stale air like glass shattering. Donald Trump robbed $775 from every stranded American traveler. The words are not a question, not an accusation, they are a sentence delivered before the jury of a furious nation. Gasps ripple through the room, even the stenographer's keys freeze mid-stroke. All eyes snap to Trump. He shifts in his chair, defiant mask cracking under the weight of a million live viewers. Sweat beads along his hairline, glinting under the white lights like evidence no lawyer can suppress. Jasmine slams a folder onto the table, receipts scatter across the polished wood, hotel bills, overpriced snack charges, taxi rides to nowhere. She lifts one slip, holding it high. This is a mother's last $42, spent on crackers and bottled water for her child while your friends in the airline boardrooms laughed. She hurls another into the air. This is a veteran who spent 2 nights on the floor at O'Hare with nothing but a rucksack for a pillow. You stripped them of the law that guaranteed them justice, and you dare call this leadership? The screen above her head flickers to life. Images of endless rows of sleeping passengers, the blue glow of departure boards screaming cancelled in relentless repetition. The audience recoils, then murmurs. Phones rise like torches as hashtags are born in real time. Hashtag airline scam. Hashtag 775 stolen. The tension climbs with every second Trump refuses to meet her gaze. He clears his throat, voice rough. We protected consumers. But Jasmine cuts him off with a raised hand sharp as a blade. Protected? You handed them over. You put a lobbyist in charge of the Department of Transportation and called it reform. You silenced compensation, silenced accountability, and now you expect to silence me. Her words slam down like iron gates. The chamber trembles with the weight of unspoken rage. One by one, passengers in the gallery begin to stand, holding their cancelled tickets high like a chorus of evidence. Trump's practiced grin falters. Cameras zoom closer, his lips press tight, his jaw ticks, silence dripping longer, heavier. 47 seconds stretch like a lifetime. Jasmine leans forward, her voice dropping into a razor whisper that the microphones amplify into thunder. If this happened to you, if it was your child sleeping on a terminal floor, would you accept silence? The chamber is dead still, the nation waits. And in that suspended moment, every viewer knows the story has only just begun. The silence is broken not by Trump, but by the heavy scrape of a chair as Pete Buttigieg steps forward, adjusting his tie with the calm precision of a man who's been waiting for this exact moment. His voice, measured yet sharp, slices across the chamber. Let's stop pretending this was about helping consumers. Donald Trump appointed Sean Duffy, a man whose paycheck once came directly from airline lobbyists, to run the Department of Transportation. You didn't protect passengers, you gave the keys of the house to the burglars. The gallery stirs. Reporters' pens scratch furiously as the first undeniable crack opens in Trump's defense. On the overhead screen, Buttigieg clicks through slides, images of campaign contributions, lobbyist dinners, and signed contracts between Airlines for America and Duffy's former firm. Every click is a hammer strike. This is not conspiracy, Buttigieg says coldly. This is conflict of interest dressed up in a suit. Trump tries to laugh it off, his chuckle brittle, but the timing fails. Viewers can hear the nerves beneath the bravado. Jasmine seizes the pause, turning to Trump with eyes that cut steel. Do you deny it? That the man you trusted with the nation's transportation was already bought and paid for by the airlines? Trump swallows, lips part, but no words come. The audience gasps. The pressure mounts. Stop before he can recover. William McGee, senior aviation analyst, rises with a thick binder under his arm. He doesn't waste a second. In 2023, we studied passenger protections across Europe. Compensation laws ranging from €200 to €775 didn't bankrupt airlines. They reduced delays by 30%. 30. He slaps the binder on the witness table and the sound echoes like a gavel. Meanwhile, here, delays have only grown worse. While airlines post record profits, Americans suffer, CEOs celebrate. That's the legacy of removing this rule. The words reverberate through the chamber, cold and unrelenting. Screens flash with graphs, red bars climbing for airline profits, blue lines plunging for consumer satisfaction. The evidence is irrefutable. Jasmine leans into the wave of testimony, her cadence sharp, relentless, so the facts are clear. Europe protects its passengers, delays fall, America abandons them, chaos rises. And the only ones applauding are the CEOs who fund your dinners. Trump shakes his head, muttering fake, exaggerated. But Jasmine cuts him off again, her tone slicing. Like a scalpel, no spin will erase this, no soundbite will bury the receipts. Numbers don't lie, politicians do, gasps. Then cheers ripple from the gallery, to kind that no gavel can silence. The energy flips, the despair of stranded families morphing into a pulse of hope, the sense that truth is clawing its way back into the light. The camera lingers on Trump's face, jaw tight, eyes darting, the mask crumbling by the second. Jasmine lets the silence hang before driving the dagger home. America has heard the numbers. They've seen the videos, they know the betrayal. So I'll ask every person watching, do you trust facts or political spin? Trump finally snaps. He slams his palm against the table, the microphone crackling under the impact. This is all fake news, he bellows, face flushed, finger stabbing the air toward Jasmine. The Democrats want to strangle the airline industry, jack up ticket prices, and punish American families. That's the truth. These so-called studies, these emotional sob stories, nothing but propaganda. His words roll through the chamber like a thunderclap, igniting chaos. Senators shout over each other, the gallery bursts into jeers and applause, and the chair's gavel pounds uselessly against the storm. Trump leans back with a sneer, scanning the room as though he's reclaimed control. But Jasmine does not flinch, she doesn't even blink. While the chamber shakes with noise, her calm is its own weapon, a blade sharper than the chaos Trump wields. She lifts a single sheet of paper, an airline balance sheet showing record profits, and lays it gently on the table. The sound is soft, but in that cacophony, it lands like an explosion. The cameras zoom, capturing her expression, not anger, but surgical precision. Fake news, she says evenly, voice amplified above the din without rising. Then show us the truth. If you believe this was about protecting American families, then name one. Just one passenger whose life got better because you stripped away their rights. The words slice straight through the uproar, and for the first time Trump's smirk falters. He opens his mouth, but the answer doesn't come. Jasmine doesn't let go. Name the mother who thanked you after sleeping on the terminal floor. Name the veteran who praised you for canceling his flight without a hotel voucher. Name the worker who smiled when $775 was stolen from his pocket. Just one. Her cadence is relentless, every line a hammer driving the nail deeper. The chamber begins to hush, the nose collapsing into a heavy, suffocating silence. The chair tries to move forward, but Jasmine raises her hand, commanding the moment. No, America deserves this answer. We'll wait. She nods toward the timer on the wall, the red digits glowing like a judge's verdict. The camera operator zooms in tight as the seconds begin to bleed away, one after another. Trump shifts, coughs, glances down at his notes, but the silence only grows louder. Every eye in the chamber, every household glued to the broadcast, is counting with her. The hush becomes unbearable, suspense wrapping the room in steel chains. On Twitter, hashtags ignite, hashtag name one, hashtag airline silence, hashtag who did you protect. The weight presses harder with each passing tick, the drama coiling like a spring about to snap. Jasmine leans forward, her voice barely above a whisper, yet sharp enough to pierce the silence. We're at 7 seconds. Can you withstand 40 more? And with that, the cliffhanger sears into the nation's consciousness. Can Donald Trump survive 47 seconds of silence before the entire country realizes The answer he cannot give. The red timer glows against the mahogany wall, every second a nail hammered into silence. Trump grips the microphone, then releases it, then grips again, his lips moving without sound, his eyes darting between the papers in front of him and the cameras staring him down. The weight of the room presses in, heavier than any speech he has given. The silence is not absence, it is spectacle. The gallery murmurs, the restless hum of disbelief filling the air like static before a storm. Phones rise across the chamber, glowing screens capturing each tick of the clock. On Twitter, on TikTok, on livestream feeds coast to coast. Hashtags erupting real time. Hashtag airline scam Trump. Hashtag name one. Hashtag for 7 seconds. Every moment of his hesitation multiplies into millions of views. A silence louder than any shout. Anka's whisper. Into hot mix from the press gallery. We are now 20 seconds in. Still no answer. The murmurs grow. A wave of incredulity sweeping through the room. Some gasp, others laugh, others shake their heads as if watching a man cornered with no escape. Jasmine sits still as stone, her eyes never leaving his face. Her posture, unyielding, radiates the calm of a woman who knows she has shifted the battlefield. That steady gaze is more than defiance, it is a mirror of every minority voice long ignored, every passenger left stranded, every worker told their pain was isolated. She does not need to raise her voice. Her silence is not weakness but weapon. The contrast is brutal. Trump, sweating, fumbling, crumbling, while Jasmine radiates a controlled power that commands the room. 35 seconds. The chamber is breathless. The chair fidgets with the gavel. But even he knows this is no longer procedure, it is theater. And the nation is the audience. A veteran in the gallery whispers loud enough for the cameras to catch. 47 seconds feels like 47 years when it's your child crying at the gate. The line ricochets across social media, a soundbite destined to outlive the hearing. 40 seconds. Trump swallows, his Adam's apple bobbing like a signal flare of panic. He leans into the mic, exhales, and still nothing. The silence has become a confession, a living indictment. The audience can feel it, despair at the betrayal twisting into a righteous anger. Stranded mothers, veterans, firefighters, every story lingers in the air. And in this silence, the truth is undeniable. The betrayal is no longer abstract. It is embodied in his refusal to answer. 40-7, the final second blinks red, the chamber hanging in suspension. To silence louder than a scream, Jasmine finally leans forward, her voice cutting through the stillness with precision. There it is. The answer is no one. The room detonates, shouts, gasps, clapping, the eruption of a nation watching its leader choke on accountability. And to every viewer glued to the broadcast, Jasmine drives the hook directly through the screen. Typed, I'm watching. If you felt every second of that silence and ask yourself, how much longer will America remain silent too? The chamber doors creak open and a man in uniform steps forward, metals clinking faintly against his chest. His face is weathered, the kind of face that has seen war zones and yet still carries the weight of sleepless nights. He places a cancelled boarding pass on the witness table like it's a piece of evidence from the battlefield. His voice trembles, but never breaks. 2 nights, he says, pausing as if the memory still bites. 2 nights on the cold floor at O'Hare. No food, no hotel voucher. Just announcements that never came, man promises that never mattered. Gasps ripple through the gallery, a reporter drops his pen. Cameras catch the veteran's hand shaking as he clutches his rucksack. I fought for this country overseas, he continues, and when I came home, I had to fight for a bowl of water in my own airport. The silence that follows is suffocating. Trump shifts in his chair, jaw tightening, but the smirk creeps back dismissive, careless. Jasmine notices it instantly. She leans toward the veteran, her tone reverent, steady. Thank you for your service, she says, voice carrying the weight of millions who never got to speak. Then she pivots sharply, eyes locking on Trump. And thank you, Mr. Trump, for proving once again who you truly serve. The line lands like a whip crack. Before Trump can muster a reply, the next witness takes the seat, a young mother clutching her child's faded teddy bear. Her eyes are rimmed red from exhaustion, but her voice slices through the chamber with a mother's rage. 19 hours in Phoenix, she declares. 19 hours with a sick child burning with fever. I begged for help, for a cot, for medicine, for anything, but the only answer I got was silence. We were invisible, Her hands tremble as she lays down a crumpled receipt for a $62 taxi ride she couldn't afford, taken after midnight with no hotel in sight. Invisible to them, she repeats, her eyes glistening, but not invisible to you. Congress, at least, I pray not. The gallery stirs. You can feel the weight pressing into every corner of the room. Jasmine leans forward, her expression softening, voice low but fierce. You are not invisible here. Your voice is our record. Your pain is our evidence. She places her hand gently over the mother's receipt, lifting it high so the cameras can see. This is the price, families. When government turns its back, Trump shifts again, that smirk twitching as though mocking the testimony. The cruelty of it hits like a second slap, the contrast so raw it electrifies the chamber. Jasmine turns back to the audience, her tone sharp as a blade, cutting through despair. These are not numbers, these are people. Veterans, mothers, children, forgotten, stranded, silenced. Her eyes sweep across the room, then pierce through the camera lens, speaking directly to every living room in America. Have you ever been left stranded and worse, forgotten? And if so, how long will you accept being treated as if you don't exist? Trump leans into the microphone, his tone dripping with disdain. These are isolated incidents, he scoffs, waving his hand as though sweeping the veterans' tonight's on the floor and the mother's 19-hour nightmare into the trash. No system is perfect. You find a few unfortunate cases and parade them like a crisis. That's politics. That's spin. His smirk returns, wider this time, as though dismissing live suffering will make it disappear. The words hang like poison, seeping through the chamber, igniting a wave of audible gasps. Jasmine doesn't move at first. She lets the insult fester in the silence, lets the sting land on every veteran watching at home, every mother clutching a child in the gallery. Then, slowly, she rises from her chair, eyes fixed on Trump like a hawk locking onto prey. Her voice, when it comes, is steady but charged with a fury that crackles in the air. Isolated incidents, she repeats, each syllable deliberate. She snatches a stack of documents from her desk and slams them onto the table. The microphone's thud, the sound is thunder. Thousands of isolated incidents, in 1 week, alone. She flips page after page, photos of packed terminals, headlines screaming massive delays, data columns stacked with numbers too large to deny. Do you know what the rest of us call thousands of so-called isolated incidents? A crisis, a betrayal, a national disgrace. The chamber erupts. The veteran's fist pounds the gallery rail. The mother clutches her child's bear tighter as tears run down her face. Applause explodes from the back rows despite the chair pounding the gavel for order. Even some lawmakers lean back, eyes widening, realizing the tide is shifting. Trump's smirk flickers, cracking under the weight of the avalanche Jasmine unleashes. He fumbles with his notes, paper sliding from his hands, the once commanding figure now visibly rattled. Cameras zoom in close enough to catch the sweat dripping into his collar, the twitch in his jaw as if his own body betrays him. Jasmine doesn't let the momentum slip. She raises one of the photos high, her voice swelling, riding the applause. These aren't statistics, Mr. Trump. These are veterans. These are mothers. These are workers who missed paychecks, children who got sick, families who slept on concrete floors, while airlines raked in billions. You call them isolated. No, they are America, and America is watching you refuse to see them. The crowd rises in a standing ovation, the chamber roaring like a stadium, every clap an indictment. Trump opens his mouth to retort, but the sound is drowned beneath the thunder of applause and the chants rising from the gallery. Who do you serve? Who do you serve? Jasmine lowers the photo slowly, locking eyes with Trump, her voice cutting through the frenzy like a final strike. So what happens, Mr. Trump, when the evidence becomes undeniable not just to this chamber, but to every American who's had enough of your silence? The lights dim slightly as William McGee, the aviation analyst, strides to the witness table with a thick binder under one arm and a digital remote in his hand. He doesn't waste time on greetings. With one click, the giant screen behind him bursts alive, bars of red and blue towering like skyscrapers. Red for airline profits, blue for passenger protections. The audience leans forward as McGee's voice slices through the chamber. This is Europe, he begins, his finger pointing to the blue line. Since 2004, EU law has guaranteed passengers compensation ranging from €200 to €775, plus meals, hotel rooms, and rebooking. The result? Delays cut by 30%. 30. He slaps the binder on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. That's what happens when governments choose people over corporations. The gallery erupts in murmurs, the ripple of shock traveling from route to route. Cameras zoom in on Trump's face, his jaw tightening as McGee clicks again. Now the screen shifts to American blue protections, only red profits climbing sky high. And this, McGee says, voice sharp as a blade, is the United States. Under Donald Trump's rollback, delays up, compensation erased. Profits soaring while passengers sleep on airport floors. He raises his eyes, glaring straight at the former president. This is not theory. This is theft, sanctioned by power. Jasmine Crockett rises slowly, her silhouette framed by the glow of the screen. She doesn't need notes, her voice carries the authority of the moment itself. Europe protects its people, she declares, each word landing like a hammer strike. She turns, locking eyes with Trump. Why not America? The chamber holds its breath. The silence isn't weakness, it's anticipation, the sharp edge of a nation leaning closer to hear the verdict. Jasmine lifts her hand toward the screen, her voice rising. Do Europeans deserve dignity more than Americans? Do their children deserve a bed while ours sleep on tile? Or is it simply that European CEOs don't sign your checks? The chamber explodes, applause crashes against the walls, echoing like thunder. The veteran in the gallery slams his fist on the rail, shouting, "That's right." The mother clutches her child's bear tighter, nodding through tears. Journalists fire off tweets, the hashtags igniting instantly. Hashtag passenger rights, hashtag 775 justice, hashtag why not America. The sound is deafening, but Jasmine doesn't flinch. She stands in the storm she created, her voice cutting above it all. We are not asking for miracles. We are asking for fairness, for accountability, for what every passenger is owed the moment they step into an airport. That's not left or right, it's right or wrong. Trump tries to speak, but his words dissolve in the roar. The cameras catch him fumbling with his papers, lips moving but unheard. The contrast is brutal. A leader shrinking under data, while a congresswoman towers with truth. Jasmine turns back to the screen, then straight into the camera lens, her eyes piercing through every television and phone across America. The evidence is clear. The world has already chosen justice. Should America adopt Europe's passenger rights, yes or no? The lights dim again, and the screen behind the committee roars to life with raw and filtered footage. Cell phone clips stitched together, shaky hands holding cameras in the chaos of JFK Airport. The first image, a wall of departure boards lit in red, the word cancelled flashing over and over like a siren. The sound cuts through the chamber, passengers shouting, a child crying uncontrollably, gate agents drowned out by a chorus of frustration. A woman's voice trembles into the microphone of her phone. We've been here 12 hours, no food, no help, nothing. The gallery gasps, the weight of reality pouring into the room like floodwater. The next clip, a baby wailing in its mother's arms, the camera panning to rows of families sprawled on the hard tile floor, their luggage stacked like barricades around them. A teenage boy shakes his head, whispering, I'm supposed to be at school tomorrow. Then another scene, an elderly man slumped against the wall, clutching his chest, with strangers fanning him as they beg for medical staff. The chamber grows restless, gasps rising into angry murmurs. This isn't a statistic anymore. It's human suffering in high definition. Trump bolts forward, his voice booming over the nose. Fake video, fabricated. Democrats stage this with their friends in the media. His words sound desperate, brittle, the tone of a man clawing against the tie. He pounds the table, demanding order, but Jasmine doesn't let him seize it. She steps toward the screen, the glow painting her face in harsh light. Her voice slices through his shout like a knife. This was last week, Mr. Trump. Last week, at JFK. While you sat in your office tearing up protections, this is what Americans lived through. The gallery explodes, some cry out, others clap, the rawness of the images colliding with Trump's denial like steel against glass. Jasmine gestures to the screen again, voice rising with fury. Are these babies actors? Are these veterans extras on a stage? Is this grandmother clutching her chest to prop in your show? The rhetorical barrage slams him against the ropes, his fake mantra sounding emptier with each repetition. The cameras pan across the chamber, catching faces twisted with outrage, fists pounding the wooden rails, eyes glistening with disbelief. The screen plays one final clip. Passengers chanting in unison, "We deserve better. We deserve better." Their voices echo through the chamber as if they are physically present, haunting every corner of the room. Jasmine turns to Trump, her tone lower now, almost a whisper, but heavy with fire. "Look them in the eye. Tell them they don't exist. Tell America this pain is an illusion." The silence that follows is devastating, punctured only by the sound of passengers chanting through the speakers. Jasmine straightens, her gaze shifting from Trump to the camera lens, locking onto every household watching. Her words land like a verdict carved in stone. "Would you call this fake or reality?" Jasmine doesn't wait for the echoes of the passenger chants to fade. She reaches under her desk and lifts a battered envelope, the kind held together by tape and desperation. With deliberate care, she pulls out scraps of paper, handwritten hotel charges scrawled in ink, crumpled meal receipts stained with coffee, bus tickets scribbled with dates and times. She spreads them across the table, each slip a wound, each line of ink a scar. The microphones pick up the crisp sound of paper hitting wood, a rhythm of indictment louder than any speech. She holds one up to the cameras. A mother in Dallas paid $312 for a motel room she never budgeted, because her flight was canceled without a voucher. A father in Denver spent $47 on bottled water and chips to feed his kids through a 20-hour delay. A nurse in Atlanta lost 2 days' wages, stranded with no place to sleep. Her voice rises, steady but burning. This is not theory. It's theft in receipts and in tears. Trump shifts in his seat, his complexion flushing deeper with every word. He mutters into the microphone, "That's not proof," but the words stumble, collapsing before their whole. The cameras zoom in on his face, red glooming across his cheeks, sweat crawling down his temples. His smirk is gone. What remains is something raw, cornered. He glances down at his notes, riffling papers, but none of them answer the evidence stacked against him. The chamber reacts like a living organism. Gasps first, then a thunder of applause rolling in waves, swelling from the back of the gallery to the front row of lawmakers. People are on their feet now, fists pounding the rail, receipts lifted like protest signs. The veteran raises his rucksack high. The young mother clutches her child's teddy bear, tears streaming down her face. As strangers around her clapped in solidarity, the sound is deafening, an eruption of anger, but also of empowerment. For the first time in the hearing, the people feel larger than the power in the chair. Jasmine seizes the momentum. She lifts another crumpled slip, ink faded but legible, and holds it inches from Trump's face. "You call this spin. You call this fake. This is the handwriting of a janitor who slept in a bus terminal because you took away his right to shelter. This is the ink of a veteran who rationed snacks while CEOs toasted champagne." Her eyes narrow, her tone dropping to a lethal whisper amplified across the chamber. "You didn't just cancel flights, you canceled dignity." Trump's jaw tightens, but no words come. The silence around him feels heavier than before, filled now with the roar of people who know they're not invisible anymore. Jasmine drops the receipt onto the pile and looks directly into the camera, speaking past Trump, straight to America. He can't erase these bills, and he can't erase these tears. The only question left is, can his defense survive the next strike? The chamber doors creak again, and Sean Duffy walks to the witness table with the stiff confidence of a man rehearsed in boardrooms, not battlefields. He adjusts his cufflinks, leans into the microphone, and delivers his line with polished detachment. "Refunds already exist," he says, as if the phrase alone were enough to absolve him. His tone is clipped, bureaucratic, a shield built of legal jargon and hollow assurances. For a brief moment, the energy dips, the crowd deflates under the weight of yet another excuse, another layer of red tape passed off as justice. Jasmine's eyes narrow, unblinking. She lets the words settle, lets the emptiness of his defense hang in the air before she strikes. Her voice is low, but laced with acid. "Refunds already exist." She picks up a stack of testimonies, her knuckles whitening around the paper. "Tell that to the father who lost a job interview after a 20-hour delay. Tell that to the family who slept on airport tile while their savings evaporated in hotel bills. Tell that to the mother who held her feverish child at gate 37 with no food, no medicine, no hope. You want to hand them a refund after the damage is already done." The gallery stirs, groans of outrage rolling like distant thunder. Duffy shifts in his seat, fumbling with his notes. "There are systems in place," he begins, but Jasmine cuts him off with a raised hand sharp as a blade. "Systems, or stall tactics. You don't give them back their missed shift, their lost paycheck, their dignity. You give them pennies after they've already lost everything." She slams the papers onto the table, the sound ricocheting through the chamber. Like a gunshot, the veteran in the gallery shouts, "That's right." Applause bursts, then subsides under the pounding of the gavel, but the fire has already spread. Duffy clears his throat, his voice thinner now. "Our priority is stability for the airlines." But he can't finish. Jasmine leans forward, cutting through him with precision. "No, your priority is stability for CEOs. For profits, for shareholders. You call that protecting passengers. No, you left them abandoned and called it a policy." Her tone sharpens, fueled by the fury building in the room. Trump tries to interject, but even he senses the danger in stepping into the crossfire. The chamber feels darker now, the mood sinking into a collective despair. Every word from Duffy is another excuse, another dismissal, another reason Americans were left stranded. Hope flickers, but Jasmine refuses to let it die. She rises from her chair, her eyes blazing, and turns from Duffy to the cameras. Her voice steadies into a knife-edged whisper amplified into thunder. "Would you accept a refund after losing your job? After your child went hungry? After sleeping on a floor because your rights were ripped away? Would you call that just a sore betrayal?" The gavel hasn't even stopped echoing from Jasmine's last strike when another voice ignites the chamber. Senator Ruben Gallego rises from his seat, his face carved with fury, his tone raw with conviction. He doesn't ease into it, he detonates. "Donald Trump protects CEOs, not citizens." The words tear through the room like a grenade. The crowd jolts upright, gasps snap into cheers, and the energy flips in an instant from despair to outrage turned electric. Reporters scramble to capture the line before the applause swallows whole. Gallego paces forward, hand slicing the air with each syllable. While Americans slept on cold airport floors, Trump's friends drank champagne in corporate suites. While families counted their last dollars to feed their children, airline executives counted their bonuses. This was never about protecting the people, it was about protecting profit. His voice is thunder, every sentence a lightning strike, each word leaving scorched silence behind it. The gallery erupts into chants. "Shame, shame, shame." Echoing against the marble like the voice of the nation itself, Jasmine seizes the momentum like a conductor leading a storm. She rises, gesturing toward Gallego, her own voice blazing. "Senator Gallego is right, this isn't governance, it's corruption dressed in a suit. Tell me, Mr. Trump, when was the last time you spent a night stranded at Gate 22 with no food? When was the last time you rationed crackers to keep your child quiet while waiting 19 hours for a flight? You wouldn't know because you were never there, but America was, and America remembers." The words draw blood. Trump bristles, slamming his palm against the table, but his fury is drowned in the tidal wave of applause. Social media detonates. Hashtags rocket up the charts. Hashtag Trump for CEOs. Hashtag abandoned Americans. Hashtag airline scam. Clips of Gallego's line spread like wildfire, stitched and shared. Voices shouting in unison online what the chamber is screaming in real time. Screens in living rooms across the country flash with the same moment. Trump shrinking under the firestorm. Jasmine and Gallego towering side by side, their unity striking like a hammer blow against his crumbling defense. Gallego leans into the microphone one final time, his tone sharp as broken glass. "Mr. Trump, you've made your choice. You stand with CEOs, not citizens. But today, citizens stand with Jasmine Crockett." He slams his fist on the desk, and the chamber erupts again, the air vibrating with rage and vindication. Jasmine lifts her hand for silence, her eyes locking on the cameras, her tone dropping to a lethal whisper. At the microphones turn into a roar across the nation. The evidence is no longer numbers on a chart or stories in a file. It is a movement of people who refuse to be silenced. So I'll ask America directly, who do you believe Trump serves? The people, or the CEOs who profit off their misery? Trump finally detonates. He pushes back his chair, leans into the microphone, and his voice explodes across the chamber like a thunderclap. "You're puppets, every single one of you. This is nothing but a witch hunt." His fist slams the desk so hard that water glasses tremble. the microphones squeal, and the gallery erupts in chaos. He points a shaking finger at Jasmine, his face flushed crimson, sweat glistening under the unforgiving lights. You don't care about passengers, you care about politics. You don't care about truth, you only care about destroying me. The room spirals into pandemonium. Some senators shout back. The gallery roars with disbelief. Journalists shout over one another for sound bites. The gavel hammers again and again, but the noise drowns it out. Trump raises his voice higher, practically screaming over the storm. This whole spectacle is a disgrace. I gave this country cheap flights. I gave it stability. And now you come here with your fake tears and fake receipts. You're all actors in a play written by my enemies. His voice cracks with fury, the words tumbling faster, angrier, less controlled. Through the maelstrom, Jasmine doesn't move. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't even blink. While Trump burns himself out, like a wildfire consuming its own fuel, she sits straight-backed, hands folded, her eyes like sharpened steel. The contrast is brutal, his chaos against her pose, is unraveling rage against her unshakable calm. Every camera in the chamber catches it, the picture of a man unhinged, against the portrait of a woman who refuses to be moved. The optics alone strike harder than any speech. Trump pounds the table again, this time with both fists, sending papers flying into the air. Puppets, that's all you are. Puppets dancing on strings pulled by the left. His voice grows hoarse, his words slurred by anger, but he keeps pounding, 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 as if nose alone could drown out the evidence already seared into America's memory. The sound is deafening, the image unforgettable, a former president, cornered, unraveling before the eyes of the nation. Jasmine leans forward at last, her voice calm, steady, amplified above the wreckage like a bell ringing in a storm. You call us puppets while you bow to CEOs. You call this a witch hunt while mothers and veterans pay the price of your choices. You pound the table because you cannot answer the truth. Her tone sharpens into a whisper that the microphones carry into every home watching. And when rage replaces reason, what's left to defend? The chamber falls into stunned silence. The gavel hovers in the chair's hand. Reporters freeze mid-sentence. The gallery waits breathless. Trump's fists are still on the table, knuckles white, chest heaving, but no words come. America leans closer to the screen, knowing something has shifted, sensing that this firestorm has only just begun. Trump drags himself back to the microphone, his voice raw but stubborn, as if repeating the same line could turn it into truth. This protects cheap tickets, he insists, jabbing the air with a trembling finger. Without my decision, Americans would be paying double. I saved families money more than you'll ever admit. His words echo through the chamber, but they ring hollow, like a salesman pitching snake oil to a crowd already holding the receipts of betrayal. Jasmine doesn't blink. She rises slowly, the movement deliberate, commanding the cameras to follow. Her every step, in her hand, is a remote, small and black, yet loaded like a weapon. She clicks once, and the screen behind her ignites with footage no one in the room is ready for. Stranded families flash into view, mothers rocking crying infants on the cold floor of Phoenix's terminal. Children curled up on suitcases at JFK, elderly passengers shivering under thin airline blankets at O'Hare. Voices spill from the speakers. We've been here 19 hours. No food, no hotel, nobody cares about us. The chamber gasps as one. The sound, a sharp intake of collective outrage. Trump freezes, his eyes darting to the screen, then to the audience, then back again. That's, he stammers, fumbling for words. That's not. He reaches for his papers, flipping, riffling, scattering them across the desk like a gambler watching his last hand collapse. The microphones catch his uneven breaths, each one heavier, sharper, exposing the panic beneath his mask. His voice catches in his throat as the images play on loop, louder and louder, swallowing every excuse before it can leave his lips. The cameras zoom in tight. 29 seconds stretch into eternity. 29 seconds of a man unraveling, his authority crumbling under the weight of undeniable reality. He clutches one sheet of paper, drops it, grabs another, drops that too. The once mighty figure looks smaller now, his hands trembling, his face blotched red, his words dissolving into nothing but syllables and stutters. Cheap tickets sell, the gallery erupts, the tension snapping into thunder. Applause surges like a tidal wave, rolling across the chamber, drowning his collapse in a roar of vindication. Jasmine doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. She lets the applause rise and fall like crashing surf, then steps closer to the microphone. Her eyes lock on Trump's hunched figure, then peer straight into the camera lens as if speaking to every kitchen table and living room in America. Her words are measured, deliberate, unforgettable. Cheap tickets mean nothing if the cost is your dignity, your child's health, your family's safety. He promised savings, what he delivered was suffering. 29 seconds of silence told you everything you need to know. Type justice if you saw him crumble, because justice is the only ticket Americans deserve. The chamber still rumbles from Trump's collapse when Jasmine seizes the silence like a blade. She doesn't waste a second. Her voice snaps through the microphones, sharp, staccato, relentless. Not reform robbery. The words land like a gunshot, ricocheting off the marble walls. She raises a hand, points at the crumpled receipts still scattered across the desk. Not freedom fraud. The gallery gasps, then roars, the sound swelling with each blow. Jasmine steps closer, her eyes blazing, her tone accelerating into a rhythm no one can escape. Not the people, just CEOs. The audience erupts, fists pounding the railings, chants breaking out in waves. Her cadence is a drumbeat, every phrase short, brutal, unforgettable, not protection, abandonment. Not leadership lies, not just discreet. Each line slams harder than the last, the momentum building into something unstoppable. Cameras flash as the veteran rises from his seat, shouting, "Speak it." The mother clutches her child's teddy bear high, tears streaming, her voice lost. In the thunder of the crowd, senators shift uncomfortably, some clapping despite themselves, others shrinking as the tide sweeps them too. Trump sinks lower in his chair, his face ashen under the lights, his lips moving without sound. Tapers lie scattered at his feet like shrapnel. He tries to raise a hand, to interrupt, but the roar of the chamber smothers him. Jasmine lifts her chin, her words slicing the air with precision. You called it policy, we call it plunder. You called it reform, we call it robbery. You called it freedom, we call it fraud. And you, she stabs the air with her finger, eyes locked on Trump, you never stood with the people. You stood with CEOs, while the people slept on concrete floors. The chamber explodes again, louder, wilder, chants rolling like thunder. For the people, for the people. The chair's gavel bangs uselessly, drowned out by the storm Jasmine has unleashed. Social media ignites, hashtags flooding in. Hashtag robbery not reform, hashtag fraud not freedom, hashtag Crockett for the people. Millions are watching, millions are sharing, millions are answering the call she didn't even need to say aloud. She pauses just long enough to let the roar crest, then lowers her voice to a razor's edge, forcing the chamber to lean in. This is not about politics, it's about justice. It's about whose side you stand on when families are stranded, when children cry, when veterans sleep on airport floors. I know my side, I stand with them. She turns, sweeping her gaze from the chamber to the camera, her words now aimed at every viewer sitting at home. The choice is simple, their silence or my voice. Their betrayal or our fight. America, you decide. Do you see me as your voice in Congress? The chamber is no longer a hearing room, it is an uprising. One by one, they rise. First the veteran, rucksack still at his feet, his palms cracking together like gunfire as he claps with the strength of a man who has seen combat but never witnessed justice this raw. Then the young mother, tears streaking down her face, lifting her child's teddy bear high like a banner of defiance. Workers in the back rows follow, their rough hands slamming against each other, their voices fusing into a roar that shakes the rafters. The sound rolls forward, unstoppable, swelling into a tide that drowns every excuse, every denial, every smirk Trump once wore. The gallery chants in rhythm, voices breaking, fists in the air. Who do you serve? Who do you serve? The words echo against marble walls, the chant rising like thunder until it spills out of the building, carried on live streams, amplified across phones in kitchens, buses, and break rooms nationwide. Hashtags ignite, surging to the top of every feed. Hashtag who do you serve? Hashtag 775 stolen. Hashtag Crockett for the people. Clips spread like wildfire. Jasmine standing tall, Trump shrinking deeper into his chair, a veteran's fist raised high, a mother's tearful cry captured mid-frame. The internet doesn't just watch, it roars with them. Trump slumps into the leather seat that once gave him stature, but now it looks like a throne crumbling under its occupant. His shoulders cave, his jaw clenches, but his eyes betray him darting. Nervous, cornered. The man who thundered accusations minutes earlier now seems small against the storm of ordinary Americans rising in defiance. His papers, scattered across the floor, lie untouched, as though even he knows no speech can salvage this collapse. Jasmine doesn't bask in the applause, she channels it. She lifts her arm, steady, commanding silence with the authority of someone who knows the power belongs not to her, but to the people she represents. The clapping fades, the chanting slows, the hush itself now charged like a fuse ready to ignite. Again, her voice cuts through the quiet like steel. This is their verdict: veterans, mothers, workers, not pundits or CEOs' people. They will not be erased. They will not be dismissed. They will not be forgotten. Each phrase lands with precision, her words forging the roar of the crowd into the shape of hope. Social media streams at live, comments pouring in at lightning speed. She's our voice. Finally, someone fights for us. Justice is coming. The country feels the momentum shift, the despair that filled airports transforming into a belief that something bigger can be born from this fury. For the first time, the hearing feels less like a spectacle and more like a movement. Jasmine turns toward the cameras, her voice dropping to a whisper sharp enough to pierce every living room. The people have spoken. Their roar is deafening. But the question that remains is the only one that matters: will their justice be written into law? The chamber, still vibrating with chants and applause, falls silent as Jasmine Crockett rises once more. She places a thick folder on the table, its cover stamped with bold letters, Passenger Fairness Act. The cameras snap in, reporters leaning forward, sensing history in the making. Jasmine's voice is steady, calm but charged, the calm before a new storm. The people have spoken, she begins, and now it is time to put their cry into law. She opens the folder and spreads the first page across the desk. On the screen behind her, graphics ignite clear, bold, impossible to ignore. The first slide, $200, $775 compensation. Jasmine points to the numbers, her finger steady, her tone precise. Every passenger stranded by airline fault will be owed what Europe has guaranteed for nearly 2 decades, real money, not empty apologies. She flips the page, the screen flashing to the next promise. Mandatory meals. No American will be forced to choose between hunger and survival in a terminal. Another slide appears. Hotels for overnight delays. Children will not sleep on tile. Veterans will not be abandoned in plastic chairs. Mothers will not rock their babies beneath fluorescent lights, while CEOs dine in private suites. The chamber murmurs, nods ripple through the crowd. Jasmine builds momentum, rebooking. Protections. Passengers will be guaranteed flights, without hidden fees, without being left to navigate chaos alone. Then the final blow, penalties for airlines. The graphic shifts to a giant red gavel crashing down on the words corporate abuse. Jasmine's voice rises above the silence. If they fail, they pay. No excuses, no spin, no escape. The room erupts, not in chaos this time, but in applause that feels like hope clawing its way back into the light. Trump tries to interject, but his voice is drowned out instantly by clapping that reverberates through the chamber. Even lawmakers, who moments earlier hesitated, now lean forward, some whispering, some clapping under their breath. The graphics loop on screen, each point seared into the minds of viewers at home. Social media erupts in real time. Screenshots of the act go viral. Hashtag surge again. Hashtag Passenger Fairness Act trending across platforms. A teacher in Ohio posts, "This law would have saved me $400 last month." A nurse in Texas writes, "Finally, someone is fighting for us." The movement that was roaring now crystallizes into something tangible. Jasmine doesn't stop at the slides. She turns toward the people in the gallery, toward the cameras, her voice carrying both fire and compassion. This is not charity. This is not generosity. This is justice. This is what every American deserves the moment they buy a ticket. A guarantee that dignity will not be denied, that fairness will not be optional, that rights will not be shredded by lobbyists in dark rooms. Her words rise into a crescendo, the chamber trembling under their weight. She lets the applause crest, then lowers her tone to a razor whisper that cuts through the roar. The Passenger Fairness Act is the line in the sand. Now I ask you, America, would you support this law today? No sooner do Jasmine's words echo across the chamber than the opposition moves in like a pack sensing weakness. A Republican ally of Trump leans forward, voice booming through the microphone. This so-called Passenger Fairness Act is a direct assault on our economy. These payouts will bankrupt our airlines, cripple competition, and drive ticket prices through the roof. It's reckless, it's dangerous, and it will hurt the very people you claim to protect. Murmurs ripple across the room, doubt seeping in, the applause that lifted Jasmine moments ago faltering into anxious silence. Another lawmaker piles on. Do you really want to destroy one of America's most critical industries? Do you want to hand airlines over to foreign carriers because of excessive regulation? This bill isn't fairness, it's economic suicide. The words hang heavy, a wave of unease rippling through the gallery. The veteran shifts uncomfortably. The mother clutches her child tighter, the roar of hope dimming into nervous whispers. The tension dips, the fight suddenly teetering on the edge of collapse. But Jasmine refuses to surrender an inch. She stands, shoulders squared, eyes sharp as a blade. Her response is swift, merciless. Bankrupt the airlines, she thunders. Airlines posted record-breaking $32 billion in profits last year while passengers slept on floors, while veterans rationed water, while mothers begged for medicine in terminals. She slams her palm against the desk, the microphones amplifying the sound like a crack of lightning. They are not bankrupt, they are bloated. And every cent they pocketed came from the misery of passengers abandoned without rights. Gasps sweep the room. Then a murmur of agreement builds into applause. Phones light up across the gallery. Social media surging again with Jasmine's words. Hashtag profits over people. Hashtag passenger fairness. To dip in momentum claws back into a rise, the audience leaning forward once more, their anxiety reshaped into righteous fury. Jasmine turns toward the cameras, her tone deliberate, her eyes unflinching. This is the question America must answer. Do profits matter more than people, or will we finally choose justice over greed? Jasmine rises again, her figure framed against the towering screen still glowing with the words Passenger Fairness Act. The chamber is tense, split between fury and fear, the air thick enough to cut. She lifts her hand, palm open, demanding silence, and she gets it. Her voice lands with surgical precision, each word sharp as steel. This isn't left or right, it's right or wrong. The chamber reacts instantly, a thunderous explosion of applause that drowns out even the gavel. Senators shift uneasily, some clapping reluctantly, others pounding their desks in agreement. The gallery rises as one, the roar of the people cascading like a tidal wave through the halls of power. Her tone softens, but the fire burns hotter. This is not about party lines, this is about bread lines. It's not about red states or blue states, it's about the American traveler stranded, ignored, humiliated. It's about the veteran who gave everything, the mother who had nothing, the worker who missed a paycheck. Their pain knows no political color, and neither does justice. She turns, scanning the faces of her colleagues, her gaze landing hardest on Trump, who now shrinks deeper into his chair, shadowed by the very people he failed to defend. Jasmine's voice rises, carrying the weight of generations left voiceless. I speak today not just for passengers, but for every minority, every worker, every community that has been told their suffering is an isolated incident. We are not isolated. We are united, and we are done being ignored. The chamber shakes with cheers, the galleries stomping their feet until the marble quakes beneath them. Hashtags explode again across the nation. Hashtag right not left. Hashtag justice for all. Hashtag Crockett voice of the people. She steadies herself, leaning into the microphone, her voice dropping to a whisper sharp enough to pierce through the nose. The room stills instantly. America is watching. The people have risen. Their roar is undeniable. That the question remains the only question that matters: will Congress act or betray them again? The hearing may have ended, but the shockwaves have only just begun. By nightfall, headlines scream across every major network. Crockett shamas Trump in airline showdown. 47 seconds of silence that stunned America. 29 seconds of collapsing around the world. Anchors replay the footage on a loop. Trump fumbling with papers, Jasmine standing tall, receipts in one hand and justice in the other. Commentators call it a defining moment, a rupture in the old order where Tower was finally forced to answer to pain. Online. The blaze is unstoppable. Hashtags surge into the millions. Hashtag 775 stolen. Hashtag who do you serve? Hashtag justice for passengers. Clips of Jasmine's machine gun lines. Not reform, robbery. Not freedom, fraud. Rack up views faster than networks can count. TikToks, Reels, Livestream. Stitches flood every feed. One video, a side-by-side of Trump's silence against a mother rocking her crying child in an airport terminal, hits 10 million views overnight. The nation doesn't just watch at rallies, and beyond the nose of headlines and hashtags, ordinary citizens find their voice. A veteran outside O'Hare tells a reporter, "She spoke for me when no one else will." A nurse in Houston posts, "She's fighting for us." Finally, a mother in Phoenix goes live on Facebook, holding up the same teddy bear shown in the hearing. "My daughter isn't invisible anymore." Pride swells, hope resurfaces, and across dinner tables and late-night conversations, Jasmine Crockett's name is no longer just a headline, it's a promise. The camera lingers one last time on Jasmine leaving the chamber, head high, the crowd behind her chanting. And the question left hanging in the air is no longer hers alone, it belongs to the people now. Would you share this story with your family, so they never forget who stood up and who stayed silent? The chamber is empty now, its marble walls echoing, only with memory, the roar of applause, the chants, the gavel strikes all gone, replaced by silence thick enough to feel. Jasmine Crockett sits alone at the witness table, the same desk where she had spread receipts like evidence of a nation's betrayal. Her hands rest lightly on the stack, her eyes tracing the ink smudges and coffee stains left behind by ordinary Americans. She sees not paper, but faces, the veterans' weary eyes after 2 nights on the floor, the mother's trembling hands clutching a teddy bear, the worker's broken voice describing a missed paycheck that never came back. Her breath catches, and in the stillness she leans forward, whispering to the empty hall, "Justice is never convenient. It's earned." The words hang in the air like smoke from a battlefield, fragile but impossible to ignore. The camera lingers on her face, lit half in shadow, half in the glow of the desk lamp, a portrait of exhaustion and resolve colliding in one frame. This is the cost of courage, the isolation that follows the storm, the weight of knowing that fight isn't finished when the lights go off. Jasmine closes her eyes for a moment, replaying the day's testimonies like a reel she cannot turn off. The baby crying at JFK, the grandmother gasping at O'Hare, the chants of "Who do you serve?" that shook the chamber. Each memory cuts, but each one steals her. She exhales slowly, her voice steadier now, her eyes turning toward the empty rows of chairs, as though speaking to every American watching from home. "The mic won't always be in my hands. One day, it will be in yours. What would you fight for if you had the mic?" The camera pulls back slowly, the chamber stretching wide and solemn in its silence. A narrator's voice cuts through, low and resonant, carrying the weight of what just unfolded. A warrior for justice is not defined by the enemy she silences, but by the people she defends. The words ripple like thunder across the stillness, a reminder that today was not about one clash, but about millions who have been voiceless for too long. The doors swing open, and Jasmine Crockett steps out, not as a politician cloaked in formality, but as a fighter embraced by those she stood for. Veterans clasp her hand with trembling gratitude. Mothers hug her fiercely, pressing their children against her shoulder. Workers, still in uniforms stained by shifts they almost missed, pat her back like she carried their burden on her own. The cameras catch every face, relief, pride, tears etched into a single truth. This hearing was their victory as much as hers. Outside, the chants swell again, rolling like a wave across the Capitol steps. "Justice, justice, justice." Jasmine lifts her hand, not in triumph, but in solidarity, her voice carried above the crowd. Justice belongs to the people, it always has, it always will. The words strike like a final verdict, echoing into the night, impossible to erase. The screen fades to black, but one message remains in bold, searing letters across every viewer's mind. If you believe passengers deserve fairness, comment "Justice for all" below. The call is simple, but electric, an invitation not just to witness history, but to join it. Millions are already typing, millions more will follow. And for the first time in years, a nation that felt abandoned knows it has a voice, and it roars with Jasmine Crockett. True justice is never handed down from the powerful, it is demanded, earned, and defended by ordinary people who refuse to remain silent. Jasmine's battle reminds us that dignity is not a luxury, it is a right worth fighting for in every arena, whether in Congress or in our daily lives. When we see injustice, we can choose to ignore it or confront it, knowing silence always serves the oppressor. The courage of one voice can awaken millions, but lasting change requires all of us. If you were given the microphone today, what injustice in your community would you fight to end? Thank you for watching until this moment and for standing with us on this journey for justice. Your support means everything. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's next. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let us know what moved you most in this story. Together, our voices make a difference.